Good evening, everyone. Gareth Presh, founder of the World Health Innovation Summit, and welcome this evening to WHISTalks. Our guests this evening are Josh Luckow and Lance Fortner, joining us from Heidelberg in Germany. Good evening, gentlemen. Josh, I'll start with yourself. Could you give us a quick introduction and tell us a little bit about Solowave and your particular passion for SDG 3, good health and well-being, and the vision? And really looking forward to getting stuck into this conversation this evening.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you, Gareth. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening and to be working with you on all of our fronts. So yes, Solowave is determined to democratize healthy living and to make it accessible and affordable for everyone. We have spent the last 40 plus years as a team honing a model that brings this healthy living to all generations, all demographics, and really is focused on enlivening the spirits and kind of awakening the consciousness towards the benefits of healthy living.
Super. And tell me, Lance, a little bit of background about yourself and how you're involved with Solowave.
Mm-hmm. So became involved nearly a year ago, starting discussions on how to bring health literacy throughout the life stages, and using some of my background in solution-focused brief therapy, my work with young people and adolescents throughout the years. And we found ourselves at crossroads where we were able to, and really blessed to be in the same city abroad, and with the same focus, and that is to integrate this health journey into every life stage for every person, and as exactly following what the SDG 3 is trying to achieve.
Fantastic. Josh, just a little bit of an insight into your background. Maybe you could tell people, give people a bit of context. You've got a vast array of skill sets in this area. And just for the audience that are listening in, give them a bit of a background on your talent, shall we say, in this space, because you have done some amazing work with Canyon Ranch in the past. And maybe you can tell people about what you've achieved in that space, and that'll give them the context of what we're trying to achieve.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, I've had a very blessed and beneficial opportunity. So my family co-founded Canyon Ranch, and that was about 40 plus years ago. And Canyon Ranch was just this amazing company that had a very purposeful driven culture, an intent to heal the world through its various properties and forms. And I was able to work with the company for almost 15 years in a multitude of capacities, overseeing our medical side. We have an extensive healthcare side to that business, as well as our spiritual side, our creative side, and contributing to all the other facets in the organization. Well, I was going to say, in addition to that, I was able to bring in my technical skill set. So before I joined Canyon Ranch, I was a software developer as well as a technology consultant for several years, and saw great ways where we can use technology to further extend the offerings.
Wow. And just wanted to say hello to Michelle. She's joining us from South Africa. If anyone has any questions for Josh or Lance, please do drop them in the chat line as we go along here. We're going to be really focused on SDG 3, good health and well-being. I think we've all been aware of COVID-19 and the impact that's had on people's health and well-being. Solovave's vision is very much around how do we support and prevent disease from developing. Lance, your background, maybe you could give us a bit of a context around how you feel your skill sets. Sure. You talked about health literacy, a very important focal point for this discussion. Do you think there's been mistakes made in terms of the information that's been shared around COVID-19, for example? How could we do things better?
Well, I think a lot of the information that has been shared, I think there is good information and there's maybe not so useful information. the helpful information that's come during the crisis has to emphasize what people are looking for in terms of good mental health. That is, this was highlighted during the pandemic, and it's continuing to be highlighted as to what brings meaning to our life, what makes us happy, what allows us to experience joy, and what is it about our daily routine that contributes to that. And that is what brings us to sound mental health. So emphasizing these factors is important, and the WHO has done many has been successful in many ways to do that globally. But when it comes to individual communities and governments, we often look to the leaders, those that may or we feel should have an opinion about how we can get through this crisis, and many times that falls short.
Totally agree. Josh, talk about the current situation that we face, okay? The traditional model that we have at the moment, where we focus most of our attention on, which would be called pathogenic model, which is disease focused, where it's all about when people get sick, we're reactive, and then we put money into it, how we treat disease. And that's very much around how we set our system up. Maybe tell us a little bit about, your background in this space, and then your experience in what the benefits can be for people if they decide to shift the model towards what Salaviv is looking to do, and maybe talk about some of the investments and some of the work you're doing with the UNGSI Foundation and the work we're doing together in terms of collaborating. Give a bit of a context there would be fantastic for people listening. And anyone who has any questions, please do join the conversation. We've seen Fanny from Geneva there. Delighted to welcome you this evening.
Yes, delighted as well to have you join us. Wonderful. Yes. So, at the heart of what we look at is prevention through lifestyle. We find that the traditional healthcare systems are very reactive, as you mentioned. They are focused on a very narrow slice of one's well-being, and that's typically through the medical lens. But there are many other factors that we look at. We look at their social well-being. We look at their physical, mental, the environmental burdens that we are all facing. These are all factors. Even financial is a huge factor on our health. So we look at a multitude of these elements. But the traditional model is often focused on disease management. It is, and you said at the beginning of this, it's about only about 3 or 4% of global healthcare expenditures goes towards prevention. So this vast majority is just trying to maintain these unhealthy states that we're in, and try to control them rather than prevent them in the first place. And what we have done, the work that we have done for quite some time, is to increase people's health literacy, their understanding of their own health system, of their own passions and interests, and then empower them to make change and guide them through that process. One of the distinctions, for instance, with the healthcare system as it is now is it is often centralized around the physician. And the physician is a very knowledgeable position in the whole spectrum of health, and they're very important. But they're only one of many different health providers. And so we look at bringing a multitude of health providers together to work collaboratively and integratively, and towards that lifestyle component.
Yeah, fantastic. We just had Minash, who's joined us. He's a surgeon from Texas, and he was one of our guests recently on WHISTalks. And we had a patient lead as well. Terry Kute joined us, and they were talking about shared decision making. I think that's very much in line with what you're talking about here. It's having that holistic approach where you make informed decisions. Lance, do you have any examples that you could give maybe from your practical experiences in Germany, for example? Because you're working with 30 international schools at the moment around. It'd be good to get some context here and understanding of what you think we could achieve.
Sure. So yeah, I've spent some time working with the international baccalaureate programs, and there are many international schools throughout Germany. And so there is a network of counselors that provide the sort of counseling that I provide in our setting. The basis of an IB or international baccalaureate is inquiry. That is asking good questions, and to empower young people, especially, is to teach them what self-determination is all about, and that is that we have the power and control over our own lives, and to make the decisions that affect us, that we can be contributing members of our society. And this power within education, I found throughout my career, has kind of followed me each step of the way, whether it be in health services or in education, grassroots nonprofits that are reaching out to help the disenfranchised. And at every step of the way, access to healthcare is based on that person being able to make decisions that are right for them. And solution-focused brief therapy and practice, which I follow and am a practitioner of and believe wholeheartedly in, allows the patient, the client, the student to be the expert, to draw on their own capabilities. And we're energized to create a model that's based on that approach.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear, and Manas is saying the same here. Absolutely, let's include the patient as an equal partner in healthcare decision making for starters. I mean, it's a great starting point. I think you'll see the wider benefits of that inclusiveness. I mean, I witnessed it myself when I worked in the National Haemophilia Council in Ireland. We were co-designing solutions with the patient at the table, and we were driving up, we were driving down costs. We were improving quality of life year on year, just by basically working together as a team. I think that's if we can get that going within the healthcare system, but also within the wider community context, we can drive down, shall we say, those social determinants of health who have huge cost implications for the health service through maybe obesity or diabetes. There's all sorts of things like that. Just Josh, in terms of Solivay, its activities, because you mentioned digital is going to be a big opportunity, shall we say, now going forward. I think the switch is going to happen a lot quicker than we realized, with appointments being online now. Telemedicine, virtual reality will come into the equation. Tell us how you're moving into that space, and then maybe follow up with the physical activities that you plan to develop as well.
Great, absolutely. So yes, there is great technology out there that we can deploy in this collaborative healthcare-like model that we have. And so we've got a digital health platform that we are in the final stages of launching. It is called Holistically, and it will has a combination of a AI-driven virtual coach, as well as live providers and practitioners through telemedicine. We want to make sure that this platform and this offering is accessible to everyone in the world and affordable. We're actually coming out with a very strong free version, so people will be able to have direct access to a virtual coach. We are training this virtual coach in all health disciplines, so it becomes a very knowledgeable individual or advisor on sleep issues, exercise, nutrition, mental health, on and on and on. But one of the ways that we're doing this, though, or the reasons why, is to make that accessible to our users, to anyone that is included in our client base, but to also allow the practitioners to come up to the next level on servicing. We find in all of our work through our physical properties, we found that the practitioners were always benefited when they can elevate the discussions and get it to the next level. These practitioners in all their fields are highly trained, but if they're not advancing the person's health, they can be caught in a little bit of a spiral at a lower level of, say, education or of servicing. So this technology combined with the live providers will allow for us to elevate that conversation. The other component we have is what we're coming out with is called a well-being quotient. So it is similar to the IQ. However, it measures multiple areas of multiple determinants of health. So it gives a far more holistic view on somebody's health and gives them that really strong baseline on where they can start their journey at that moment.
Fantastic.
In terms, if you just to talk about the properties, so yes, we have a very long history in designing and operating very large-scale mixed-use properties that are bringing all of these health care providers and these wellness providers together to act in a collegiate manner, in a university-like setting, for the benefit of the clients and for the benefit of the staff. And so we are continuing to pursue those, and we'll match them up with the technology.
Superb. I mean, it's great. I mean, I know there's a lot of work going into this because we've been working on it for about 2 years, Josh. So I know how hard the work that goes into this. There's a couple of questions come in. So Michelle's asked firstly, and Lance, you might take this one. What are your secrets to success in sustaining your own level of consciousness to maintain your own holistic well-being in service of others and the work that you do? Lance, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess I would just I would go to the roots of the many that have come before us, going back to Erik Erikson and the early pioneers of psychological approaches and developmental psychology, but then leading to the present and some influences in my life, Steve DeShazer and Inso Kim Berg. These are practitioners of the solution-focused method. And if I could just take 2 seconds to tell you, Michelle, the question I ask myself every day is, how do I know when I'm at my best? And I ask this of others that come to me as well. And if I can truly notice the things that are happening when I'm at my best, then I realize that I'm reaching that sense of well-being. And if I notice that it's the relationships in my life, those people that I like to spend time with, those people that believe in me, that increases my sense of well-being. If I pay attention to those things that work for me, if I pay attention to the things that help me draw on the capabilities that we all have, that brings me to a greater sense of well-being. So that sustaining that level of consciousness is to ask the right questions each day, focusing on what works. And Steve DeShazer said it best, and that is find out what works and do more of that.
Wow, that's a fascinating insight. Josh, you're itching to come in there, please.
Yeah, no, yes, Lance is exactly right. What we have found is when you can speak the language that the individual in front of you is trying to speak, and if you can identify and help them identify what they're really passionate about and where their strengths lie, they're able to bring that passion to other areas of their life. They're able to leverage those strengths into areas that might be a bit of a challenge. But this notion that we need to go through life in these engage in activities that don't match our interests or our passionate pursuits, I think is one of the problems that we face. But if we're able to leverage where do we want to be in life, where do we want to excel, I think we'll be in a far better state.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I just it's a fascinating one. When I worked in the health service, like for example, my pure passion was to help others. Like, so that was what I went to work for, was because I believed in what we were doing, because we were helping people. And some of the people that we helped were some of the most chronic ill people in the world. Like, so they had hemophilia with rare bleeding disorders, they had contaminated blood products, and that was one of the things I was really passionate about, was to make sure that we didn't make the same mistakes, and that we really helped those people who were less fortunate than ourselves. And I loved my job. Like, I totally was immersed in it. And then, so I think that gives you a great sense of being, like, you know, perspective. But things can change as well, you know, where you have these challenges. So I think that's a very interesting insight. Just there's another question here. It just asks about the free version. Will it be available in South Africa? I presume so.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yes. It will absolutely be available in South Africa. In fact, our head of human resources, or what we call people operations, is out of South Africa. She has been with us with our former company for over 10 years. So no, we are very excited to bring this to South Africa.
I know Minas has made a couple of comments here saying exciting work, and then he's also saying would love to apply what you're doing to shared decision making. Josh, I can connect you with Minas. He's a friend of mine. We've been discussing. He's got a breast app. He does mastectomies and breast reconstruction, so we can connect each other there. Very much aligned to our values. So plenty of opportunities for us to do some good work together. Let's just look at the SDGs, Josh. That's where we met. We had a brief meeting at Davos in 2018, was it? Yeah, 2019. Sorry. And that's where we got to know each other through the UNGSII Foundation. We had our lab, and then so just tell me what the SDGs mean to you. First personally, and then from the business perspective, and then Lance, maybe from your perspective, what do you think the SDGs bring to the table, you know?
Perfect. Yes, the SDGs are a guiding light for us. And interestingly enough, you know, they were enacted in 2015, but those 17 goals were actually our guiding light well before they were even formulated. So back in the 70s, when Canyon Ranch was formed, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, reducing inequalities, decent work, all of these things made us tick. And so being able to meet you in Davos, being a part of your organization, WHIS, as well as the UNGSAI, it is just an aligning of stars for us. And so it is very impactful for us to be working in this space. And as you stated before, when people typically think of prevention, they think of vaccines, they think of various forms that are very valuable, but they're just the tip of the iceberg for what we really can be doing. And when you can bring in that prevention into a lifestyle, it's no longer thought of as prevention. I'm not trying to prevent myself from getting ill when I'm excited to eat healthy food, or when I am, doing meditation sessions with my son. These are ensuring our health and well-being, but they're not simply trying to ward off a bad thing. It's just adopting a lifestyle that allows us to really tune in to who we are and realize the best that we can out of this experience collectively.
Yeah, it brings you on, Lance, you talked about sense of purpose, a sense of coherence, so I guess it could be called a sense of being, well-being, and how do you project that? You know, it's kind of it's a sweet spot, isn't it? Like maybe the SDGs give us that extra leverage towards finding a purpose, you know, like within our life, you know. So your idea around SDGs, how can they help? How can they, leverage society towards positive change, particularly after COVID?
Yeah, I think the part that stayed with me the most since these were written was has to do with being person-centered. And in education, we found tremendous effects with social-emotional education in allowing young people to learn what a stress response really is. And that stress in our lives are not necessarily something that we can escape. Stress is normal. Stress is our body's reaction to the world around us. But how we respond to that stress is through mindful awareness, being able to relax our bodies in a natural way, using our natural breath, and being aware of how our body reacts to certain stresses. So a person-centered approach is, in many ways, bringing someone to that attention. Not that I am going to be sick and I have to go somewhere and seek an expertise from someone else, but I can listen to my own body. I can listen to what my body is telling me, and at times find my own way to become well. Because I'm mindful to it. And that comes through literacy, that comes through education. And I see opportunities here where we're reaching young people to know how to deal with their own stress. And in terms of healthcare, we have an opportunity to teach people and allow them to see what they're capable of doing on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very much when Roland asked me to work on SDG 3 with the foundation, he said to me, and you do SDG 4, and it was quality education. And I said, I don't have any background in education. And he said, but it's natural, like you have to have health and then it leads into education. So it was a fascinating insight, but I totally agree with you. I mean, the quality education allows you also to navigate. One of the most important things with the health system is how do you navigate the health system? As part of the issue and the challenge that a lot of people, and this part of the work Manas is doing, is around shared decision making, is that in information, and information guidance. We're doing a lot of work on this as well. Understanding how do you manage complex systems like a health system. So when you are in A&E, how do you navigate the system after you get through the door, and what questions to ask, how to absorb the information, because people may not realize this, but they have a huge impact on, whether you get out the door in a healthy state of mind, or whether you have inflicted an injury or something, or so on and so forth. So, it's really important to have some sort of health literacy. I hope in the future that we have that embedded within our learning, shall we say, within schools. Josh, the next 12, 24 months, 5 years, Solaviv, what will be the plan?
Sure. So, we are, we're looking to, a couple of things, I guess. So one is with the well-being quotient, that is, again, a free assessment that people can take. Our goal is to establish that as an international standard that allows us to truly understand our health state from a multitude of dimensions. From there, we look to educate and to inspire millions and millions of people through our technology, but then through our physical properties, being able to allow people to immerse themselves into those healthy environments. We find that the stronger that culture is, the quicker the adaptation is to that healthy living. But the technology allows us to bring these insights and this guidance directly to the people 24/7 at the exact moment of need, because we're faced with obstacles all the time. So it's rolling out those technology as well as the physical properties, and trying to keep the world inspired and turning a corner on this health crisis.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a big opportunity there. I think between the physical properties, the digital offering, the focus towards SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. Lance, you know, from your perspective, 12 to 24 months down the line, you're going to see a huge, should we say, look, there's going to be massive demands on the health system over the next 12 to 24 months because we've had delayed in elective surgeries, for example, 28 million worldwide. You know, you're going to have extra pressure on the system in terms of its capacity because it won't have the capacity to deal with this. NCDs, for example, we 50 million deaths per annum. Put that into context with COVID, 500,000 deaths, 50 million a year from NCDs. That's cancer, obesity, and so on and so forth. So the well-being sector is an area of growth. If you look over the last 5 years, the sector's gone from, I think, $3.5 billion up to, I think it's 5.5 now, or $1 trillion, sorry, pardon me. So there's big growth in this area. Lance, 12, 24 months down the line with Solvive, with these offerings, what do you see? Where do you see the direction of travel?
I see an unbelievable opportunity to reach out to and create a network of caregivers, but not only that, but build a bridge and access to those caregivers, perhaps an easier access than what exists now. That is being able to utilize technology to bring someone to a provider that can most help their needs in the moment. And that usually takes time. In a traditional healthcare model, it may take appointment making, it may take waiting lists. There's a number of problems that go into trying to access the traditional model. And what we're proposing here and what we're venturing to do in the next 2 years is open the door that technology can provide access for people to reach the provider that will help them not only understand what works for them, but build on their health literacy and bring them to a greater sense of wellness. I believe we have a wonderful start through not only constructing a website, but also virtual coaching, as well as bringing someone directly one-on-one with a provider online.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it's a superb opportunity. I'm glad you brought in the word bridge. I think it's bridging that gap between the wellness sector, good health and well-being, but also the healthcare providers. I think that's where the real opportunity is. If the healthcare providers can tap into the resources that you guys have and vice versa, there could be some real opportunity there. I think that's where the gap that's where SDG 3, good health and well-being, can really, you know, step into its, shall we say, step to the fore. We're going to leave it there for this evening. It's been a fantastic discussion tonight. Thanks to everyone who's joined us, Lance and Josh. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us from Germany in Heidelberg. Next week, just to let you know, we have an SDG 5 session on gender equality led by our chair, Deirdre Carberry, and her team. So it's going to be around women's empowerment. So do join us next week for that session. From myself, Lance and Josh, we'll say good night and have a fantastic evening. And we wish you all the best for the week ahead. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Gail. Take care.
Yes, thank you.